Hey peeps, it's Tripl-L, and now let's talk Little Witch Academia episode, oh geez, 8? I think it's 8. No, maybe it's 9. It might be 9. Actually, yeah, 9. Little Witch Academia, whatever, doesn't matter the episode number. Let's talk about it. So, this week's episode of Little Witch Academia, I think, might legitimately be my favorite episode. It might be my favorite because it didn't annoy me. It didn't bring up any of the concepts that usually annoy me with the show. And it was also a very fun self-contained, well, sort of self-contained episode. I overall enjoyed seeing the characters do whatever they were doing. I enjoyed seeing the necromancy kind of bent that was going on in the episode. And I just enjoyed in general seeing the story that was playing out. Like, I thought that was like really nicely done. It was a really fun episode to just sit down and watch. Now, I said self-contained episode, but if you really look at it, this episode has links to the history of witches, and then it has like a message of hope for the future of witches. And so that's what links it to the overall narrative on the thematic basis, whereas you could say it also links to the narrative because it's giving character exploration for a particular character, and it's also just fleshing out some aspects of the interactions between people and witches. Anyway, let's just get into the episode. Let's just talk about it. Enough of the general stuff. Like I said before, this was a really I really enjoyed the episode, and it was because it's ultimately a very touching episode, both in a way for Akko, but majority for the headmistress. But the thing with Akko, at the very beginning, and I assume that this is one of the elements that links to the future, Akko gives away one of her cards because people are using it as an amulet. I don't fully understand why people were, or why the witches had to leave behind something of theirs and why people were putting it away in a box. Although I assume that everyone gets their amulet back once they're back in the school. I assume that the whole amulet thing is to make sure that everyone can come back to the school safely. Regardless, seeing Akko give up her shiny chariot card, you know, it was a kind of heartwarming moment. No, there's no doubt that that particular plot moment is going to come in to be relatively important in the future of the series, and not just important just for this one standoff episode. Now let's talk about the main bent of the episode, the necromancy. Okay, look, that was the funniest sequence of events that Little Witch Academia has shown me so far. It was generally really cool. I love the skeleton. I was kind of sad that he actually had to leave, and just his whole little story as it was unfolding was pretty fun. Now, before I get into the actual story, let's all take a second to appreciate that these girls pretty much revived the dead. You know, they did necromancy. Like, that's a pretty big deal when it comes to magic and science, right? When you see things like this, you wonder, how is it that people are pushing for magic to become obsolete when it can still do things like this, right? That plot point is still totally a mystery to me as to why they're still pushing for it when there's flat out someone summoning a dead person. And you know, let's also just take a second to appreciate that the girls pulled this off with both serendipity and with relatively easy to gain components. First, it was the spell for rejuvenation along with the potion mixed in with that particular mushroom. And the thing is, like, thinking about it, it doesn't seem that hard. The whole necromancy thing, you would think that necromancy being such a dark art would be relatively complicated, but this could realistically be done by anyone just happening to go to a graveyard and just happening to spill the potion on one of the mushrooms. It's so easy to break the rules of life and bring back someone from the dead, right? It was interesting to see that aspect just pop up so easily and become the plot point for the episode. But as the episode went on, we found out that the witches do have some kind of strict guidelines for the general use of necromancy. And now I'm going to talk more about the implications of necromancy in terms of its difficulty, and less about the story and what actually happened here for just a little bit. So the thing with the whole necromancy, the thing I found more interesting, right, is that the girls did allude to witch ethics, or to the rules that witches set. So the reason that this becomes kind of important is because when you realize what's going on with the witch community, and I'm talking like, let's picture the Luna Nova, the majority of the Luna Nova staff, and just the majority of witches that we can assume from what we've seen so far, it seems that not only are the witches really set in their ways, but it also seems that the vast majority of witches really adhere to the rules that they've set. You know, take for instance the whole thing with necromancy. We don't see it happening that often, and we can assume that the witch population has been so set in their ways that they're also very set on the laws that they've set up for themselves. So when you consider necromancy and you consider that it is like largely taboo and it causes a big problem in and the fact that we do not really hear of problems among the witch community aside from things like Shiny Chariot just using magic in a way that no one ever really thought of, it really does give this idea that maybe one of the good things of the witches being so closed off and being so set in their ways is that they're very unlikely to take advantage of magic to the degree that it could be taken advantage of. And that is largely a pro for the witches. That is really cool. I will respect that, because when you take it back into consideration of the overall plot theme that's been going on of magic dying out, I am much more willing to believe that the witches just do not show off the full extent of magic to the people that matter, and for that reason people are just thinking that witches can't really do anything. Like, all of the things that they could do have been replaced by technology that everyone can do. And that topic is also very important because in this episode we had the old man pretty much telling us about, I guess, the greatest age of witches back during the medieval times, most likely right after the witch hunt, and how witches were the symbol of wisdom and can do a lot of things for people. That was a really nice note to have in the episode thrown in there, and they really took advantage of having an old person like that soldier there to kind of explain that to us. Anyway, the stance that I'm going to put on for this, specifically for the whole idea of laws among witches and like the necromancy stuff, you know, clearly the witches are capable of some really impressive magic, even at the most mundane level. Like, even Akko turning her head into like a slight hybrid of a rabbit, right, and then having the ears. Look, from a scientific point of view, she had nerves connected to the ears, and she had her brain connected to the ears such that she could feel pain when that ear was yanked. Okay, that's a full integration of a different body part. No matter how you slice and dice it, that is freaking impressive from scientific standards. There is nothing in science that can do that. So when that whole argument of witch magic is just little parlor tricks and magic just dying out, and then you have instances like necromancy and transmutation going on, it doesn't make sense. It fundamentally doesn't make sense. And you know what? Actually, just to put it in here, the fact that people can teleport to another area, the fact that when the girls go to Luna Nova, they're effectively going to another plane of existence. Look, by real world standards, if I was a oil tycoon and I knew that there was land that had not been tapped, I would be going there like crazy to just pillage the resources out of there. You know what? I think I've mentioned this before in another video. I won't rant about it here. Anyway, not the point. Point is, magic can still do some pretty incredible things, but it now seems very likely that the incredible things that magic could do are being highly regulated by the common sense of the witch population. Now let's talk about the actual content of the episode and get away from the themes of the series on its own. So, like I said, having the skeleton, and I forgot his name, but it was just a really fun time following him around and watching the girls just kind of maneuver around. I really liked Akko's maneuver of saying it was all a street performance. I liked Lot's maneuver of saying that that was her old kind of, you know, senile grandfather. And I liked Susie's maneuver of wiping the memories and just finding out as the skeleton was going around and he was getting back memories. Like, first you thought he was after maybe the man that killed him, then you found out how he found out where the guy lived. Then you find out, oh no, he was the guy, and then he starts talking about Miranda, and I'm thinking, okay, who's Miranda? Might it be Shiny Chariot? But no, you see the color of the hair, and then you're like, wait. And then you have the sequence at the academy, just the talk between Shiny Chariot, or Ursula, sorry, and Miranda. And you're like starting to piece things together, because that was a pretty easy way of telling us, hey, these are the two people who are going to be important for this plot. And then when we finally have the meetup, we have Akko using rejuvenation on the bell. Good on her for noticing that she could do that and putting the pattern together. And then we get to see what was really like the culmination of the episode. This was the reward for the viewer. You know, you sit down to watch this, you're like following this little skeleton guy along, and you finally get to see the payoff. It was a dad going back, finding his daughter, them having a nice quiet moment, the daughter thanking the father, and you know, his story was pretty nice too, him marrying a witch. You know, I have no idea what the social climate was like back in the day, but he kind of alludes to it. And ultimately, just seeing that nice family moment, along with seeing the leaves going up in the air, and you finally see a man and a woman kissing in the leaves, at least the silhouettes of them. That was a really nice touch. Overall, that was a really fun episode. I very much enjoyed it. And it was cool to see a reaction from Miranda other than the chastising witch. One who's like appreciative. And you know what? Miranda took that in stride. Her dead dad's right in front of her and she just goes with the flow. She appreciates that her dad's there. She appreciates that she knows how this magic works. And she's not really, you know, that was a mature response. That was a lady that has her shit together. Overall, you know, it was a really fun episode. And I think one of the reasons I really enjoyed it is because it spoke to the competency of all the characters, right? It spoke to the competency of Akko, because we saw Akko pull off that rejuvenation thing. That was a really smart maneuver. It spoke to the competency of Susie, but we know Susie's ridiculously competent when it comes to mushrooms and just general magic. It spoke to the competency of Lot to some degree as well, but really Susie and Akko had the bigger spotlights on this one. And it spoke to the competency of the headmistress and also the competency of the dead dad. It was a really fun episode. It rewards you for watching up to this. Watching up this far and knowing about these characters. Everything was still coherent within the logic that these characters have established for themselves. Ultimately, like I said, I think it might be one of my favorite episodes. Now, that's my general thoughts on the episode. Let's just take a quick second to talk about some little notes, such as I really enjoyed the ending theme for Little Witch Academia. It is by far one of the most adorable ending sequences for the season, even though it's a relatively simple ending with still shots. But there's one shot or a couple of shots as a road trip with the girls and Ursula, and they're going to Stonehenge, and that's such a cool shot. I wish we could see things like that because it's like the adventure of the series. But there's also one shot with Susie, and the reason that I want to talk about it just very quickly is because Susie's a really interesting character. And then there is specifically the shot where she's standing in a mushroom circle. You know, there's a lot of lore with mushroom circles, and the fact that in that shot Susie is also kind of putting her finger up to her lips, like saying shh, you know, like telling you to be quiet about it. I feel like that's a secret, because usually a mushroom circle would be associated to fairies, right? And then Susie and fairies are also very I guess malicious, or not malicious, they're very pranksterish. And this is only becoming important because when you consider the recent episode, the one before this, the Susie episode, I know that there was a comment in that video and it was asking what was our interpretation of the little Susie who gave flowers. And when you just take that little Susie's demeanor and you also take into account the mythology of mushroom circles, it quickly becomes a thing, because with that little Susie, she was being nice. She gave up flowers. Flowers are heavily associated with fairies. And then when misfortune is sort of striking, she's laughing a lot. And of course, at that point, she becomes the monster. It gets kind of hard to actually make the judgment call on what was going on. But you could take the idea of a little girl laughing at mischief happening as just being the prankster nature that is commonly found in the fair folk, the ones that are attributed with mushroom circles. Ultimately, Susie's a very interesting character, and I would like to see if we actually find out more about her heritage, because I think that mushroom circle and her asking to be quiet in the middle of it might be indicative of a bigger background for the character, or it might just be a fun reference. We really can't tell. We don't know how serious things are going to be about this, but now that we've got the concept of a half witch, half human kind of person in game, we could start thinking about other half-breeds of witches. Anyway guys, that's it for me. I hope you enjoyed the little point. I hope you enjoyed the video as a whole. Thanks for watching, and let's leave it there. Till next time. I hope you have a great day. Leave your comments down below. I know a few of you are really good at writing comments, so I will try to answer them. I'll probably answer them within 3 days. It depends on how much time I have on YouTube. And I apologize to the one person who asked a question and I didn't answer in the previous video. I hope this last point answered the question for you. Anyway, again, thanks for watching, and till next time, hasta la vista.